Okay, so welcome to this update on the O-REU program at Texas A&M University. I'm doing this by request. After the previous update, I had a few requests to do another update later on just to debrief UMC on how things went. So we're now just, I think, 3 weeks shy of the end of the program. It started on May 26th. It's ending on August 7th. So I figured now would be a good time to do this brief update. So as before, I wanted to acknowledge everybody who contributed, including many, many individuals. The list has grown longer since the last time I gave this presentation, both for the individuals as well as for the institutions that were involved. So I want to thank everybody. Briefly, we did have a previous update. That update is available on YouTube. So this is the link for that. These slides I can make available, and as I said, the recording will also be made available, so you should be able to watch this previous update as well if you're interested in it. By way of reminder, O-REU is online REU. It's a fully online REU program with no face-to-face component. We have a variety of projects, mostly focused on theory and modeling, computation, simulation, data science, basically anything that can be done online, but that of course favors the theory and modeling side and disfavors the experiments. As I mentioned, it runs from May 26th to August 7th, so we're almost done. All participating students receive a 5K have received already a 5K stipend for the summer. We had 58 students altogether, 42 mentors and 3 institutions participating. In addition to Texas A&M, there was Los Alamos and Sandia. And there are a number of additional resources here that you can consult if you're interested, including the O-REU website, which I'll show you in a minute, a press release that the college made, as well as a short video clip to illustrate what the program's about. So students are from all over the country. About a third of our students are from A&M, but the rest are from the entire, remainder of the continental U.S. We don't have anybody from Alaska or Hawaii. Coast to coast, including the, all the sort of parts in between as well. By institution, 22 from Texas A&M. The next largest contingent is from Georgia Tech, and after that, UT Austin and UC Berkeley. Then we've got Case Western Reserve, 2 students each from University of North Texas, Rice, University of Illinois, and then 1 student from a number of institutions, including Penn State, University of Kentucky, Missouri, University of Science and Technology, Loyola in New Orleans, Purdue, Carnegie Mellon, MIT, University of Pittsburgh, Brown, New Mexico Tech, University of Utah, University of Minnesota, Brigham Young, and Worcester Polytechnic Institute. Before we started out the program, we did an entry survey of the students, very brief entry survey. We'll also do an exit survey. So, this is just a brief summary of the questions that we asked. We wanted to find out how people heard about O-REU, and it turns out that a large fraction of them heard from their home institution. So, I think that a lot of the students that we got who are not from A&M learned about it from you guys, those of you who advertised the program. So I wanted to thank you for that. We wanted to rank order the expectations that students had for the program, and by far the highest expectation was to learn a new technical skill. And that is something that has been, I think, fleshed out in the student interest in the various activities that we've had. And then, of course, a number of other, items that the students have been interested in, but learning a new technical skill is high up there. We asked our students what their post-graduation plans were, and a number of them were interested in grad school, and those were split about half and half between master's programs and PhD programs. We also polled the students about their skill sets. We found that quite a few, almost all of the students had some background in either MATLAB or an interpreted language such as Python. Relatively fewer students had a background in a compiled language such as C++ or Fortran, or in command line interfaces. And then rather few had any background in high performance computing, or any sort of specific modeling methods like atomistic or continuum finite element machine learning. And a lot of the activities that we planned in our O-REU program have therefore been focused around these areas where students generally had less experience. So since this is all online, we didn't have any meetings in person, no face-to-face meetings. So what modes of communication did we use? So far we've held one large synchronous teleconference, and that was basically just the kickoff meeting. We plan to hold one more, which is going to be the wrap-up meeting, but we wanted to make these relatively rare because it's difficult to get everybody scheduled in for a single time. We had an email list, and we use that occasionally, but I don't want to sort of overuse it because I don't want to crowd people's mailboxes. The two other modes that we have, which have turned out to work very well, are a shared Google Calendar as well as a Slack channel. And so I'll show you very briefly. This shared Google Calendar is basically just a calendar that I set up in my own Google account, and there's an option there to share it with any number of people that you want. And so basically I just shared it to all of the O-REU students. These are past events. You can see here's our kickoff meeting. Whenever a particular event is completed and it has been recorded, I post the link to the recording on YouTube in the calendar as well. And then we had a number of primers, seminars, all these things I've posted. And then if you sort of go through week by week, you can see all the different activities that we had, including tutorials in various pieces of software, seminars, summer schools, all kinds of things. So this has been a very, I think, useful organizing, way to organize our work. The other has been the Slack channel. So we set up a Slack channel for all the O-REUs to use. This is a good alternative to sending out lots and lots of emails. I just do my announcements via Slack, including all of our activities. Whenever we have seminars that have posted online, we can share the links to that over here. We troubleshoot. We have separate, sort of channels set up here for students who are learning specific pieces of software. So for example, LAMPS or finite element analysis. We have, this Slack channel has proven to be very useful. The core events that constitute the majority of the program were the kickoff meeting. We had a one-page project description, which was due 1 week after the project began. This was relatively straightforward. Nobody had any problems with it. We asked all of our students to send us pre-recorded research updates. So there are 3 total in the entire program. Since we couldn't have any research updates in person, we pre-recorded all of them, put them up on YouTube. This is something that I really sweated over when we were about to start the program. I didn't know how well this would go. I was very pleased to see that students really took it in stride, did extremely well. And so I just wanted to, very briefly show you. Here's our YouTube channel where we post all of the updates as well as all of the seminars and recorded meetings. We've had a lot of content that's been generated over the span of this semester. So this has proven to be relatively easy to do. And we've had, a wide range of styles of student presentation styles. So I'll just briefly show you a few snippets just to give you a sense of the range. So we've had, some students who have chosen to do relatively, let's say conventional sorts of updates, such as this one, for instance.
Hi, my name is Nadia, and today I'm going to be talking about understanding diffusion in iron chromium within film growth. This project is part of the Texas A&M O-REU program and in collaboration with my mentors at Los Alamos National Laboratory, Blas Ubedewaga, Enrique Martinez, and Ted Holby. They are supported by the Future Program, Fundamental Understanding of Transport Under Reactor Extremes, and I am a material science and engineering student at Georgia Tech.
So relatively sort of standard presentation style. We had other students who then went on to do, additional sort of wrinkles. For example, here's a student that, posted a demonstration into her presentation.
As an illustration, I have these 2 substrates. This one is just tissue paper, and this one is Saran wrap, which is low density polyethylene. I also have this golf ball, which will serve as the micro projectile. When the golf ball is pressed against the saran wrap, a cone of deformation forms over a large area of the material. When it is perforated, the diameter of the hole is much larger than the golf ball. When the golf ball is pressed against the paper, a much smaller hole is formed, around the size of the golf ball. Because the smaller amount of material is involved in the penetration of the paper absorbs less energy compared to the saran wrap, where the deformation was much larger.
Okay, and then we had other examples like this one.
Hey everyone, Christopher Wheatley here, and we have a bunch of exciting stuff that's happened since we last spoke. This is my second video update for the TAMU O-REU, but before we get into that, a word from our sponsors. I want to thank Dr. Michael Dimkovich, Dr. Peng Chen for their expertise in this area. Thank you to the National Science Foundation and the Center for Research Excellence on Dynamically Deformed Solids for supporting this online O-REU. And finally, thank you to Texas A&M for organizing this opportunity.
So, as you can see, a very wide range of styles, and I was very glad to see that that the presentations have all been very high caliber. So, what we have left is one pre-recorded research update. That's going to be the final update, and we're going to have a wrap-up meeting on August 7th. In addition to the core activities, we also had a number of optional enrichment activities. So these are basically things that students could do at their own discretion. So we have weekly O-REU seminars. We have weekly O-REU happy hours, and that was an attempt to build community. We also had a number of different topical seminars, lectures, tutorials, and workshops, and we have a professional development panel coming up on preparing a winning grad school application. Just to sort of very briefly say something more about these enrichment activities. So, I'm just flashing here a table with our O-REU seminar series just to give you a sense of the number of speakers and topics. We also had a dedicated soft matter seminar series, which was set up in collaboration with Los Alamos National Lab. We had a summer school running on dynamical deformation of solids, and this was set up by one of the projects that collaborated with O-REU. We had a workshop on a software package called AFLOW, which is a database-driven tool for solving materials problems using density functional theory. This is an interesting one. We had a virtual science communication workshop, which was something that was actually held by the Boston Museum of Science. They volunteered to do this. They basically contacted me and volunteered that they would hold this kind of virtual workshop for our participants. There was a limit of about 20 participants. Our High Performance Research Computing Center held numerous primers on various aspects of computation, including command line and data science and things like that. So it was very useful. We also had several software tutorials, including on atomistic modeling with LAMPS, finite element analysis with ANSYS, and computational chemistry with Gaussian QM, just to give examples. So our next steps are to complete the final research updates, and these will be 10 minutes long. They will be linked to student profiles on the O-REU website. So let me just show you that. I'm just going to go to the O-REU website here. This is it. If I go up here, I see all the students. So you can scroll here and see who all the students are. As you can see, we have their names, their institutions, their email addresses, and project titles. So these project titles are going to be linked to their final updates online once those become available. We're going to have a wrap-up meeting and an awards ceremony. There will be an exit survey where we try to assess, what worked and what could have been done better. I'm happy to share the outcomes of that as well if anybody's interested. We have decided actually to apply for a permanent O-REU site at A&M. So we'll be applying to the NSF. Our hope here is to serve students who want to participate in an REU program during the academic year, but are enrolled at a different institution. So for example, in the South Central US, the region where Texas A&M is located, we're one of the few material science departments. And So we have the opportunity to serve a lot of other institutions that don't have materials departments, right? So anybody who wants to do an REU in materials science can do so with us remotely during the academic year while pursuing their degree elsewhere. We also want to be able to serve students who cannot use their REU income to relocate for the summer. So for example, if they have family commitments or constraints and would prefer to remain where they are while they do an REU, then they have the option to do that while still getting the income that they would have had from an REU program. And of course, NSF has this set of big ideas that they want to pursue, and one of them is the future of work. So we're thinking that remote work is part of the future of work, and so we'd like to be able to innovate in that space. Here are a few lessons that we've learned as a result of our experience this summer. First of all, we find that there is actually a lot of interest in online REU programs, both among students and mentors. In particular, it was not difficult for us to fundraise. So there was a lot of interest from among mentors who could contribute some funding, as well as projects, programs that contributed. I think that this O-REU program that we hosted would not have been possible if we had not had a pre-existing cyber infrastructure here at A&M. In particular, the High Performance Research Computing Center was really indispensable. They made a lot of this work possible. We had a number of traditional style seminars and lectures. Those were reasonably well attended, but I'd say the reception was somewhat lukewarm, especially when compared to our hands-on tutorials for example, various software packages. And those gathered a lot of interest, right? So there was a lot of interest in hands-on tutorials. I think that if we were to do this program again, I'd plan to have more of those tutorials, more in-depth tutorials, on a greater variety of topics and maybe fewer traditional style seminars. The transition to recorded online updates was very easy, right? So students had really no problem with that. Everybody's pretty much on time. For 58 students to deliver these updates, basically, on the deadline without, being late, I think is almost a miracle. Realistically, it really shows that this is not a big hurdle for the students. One thing that is difficult, not surprisingly, is building community. Some students are eager to do it, others are not. And so, it's really difficult to connect with those students who are not, making the effort to participate in happy hours and things like that. The shared calendar, the Google Calendar and the Slack channel, I think made daily activities very easy to organize. So, if anybody's thinking about deploying a program like this at their institution, I highly recommend this as a good way to organize the daily activities. We also found, of course, a few hiccups in administrative processes to some extent that I think is to be expected. Some delays in onboarding and remuneration, which we eventually figured out, and I think we would do better the second time around. I'm happy to go into details with anybody who might be interested. And that's all I have. So thank you for taking the time to listen. I'd be happy to take any questions if anyone has questions.